might be back here. It's not. Yeah. Dean gave me a
Call this meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is invocation by Resurrection Lutheran. Okay.
Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise for all your mighty works. You are loving and good and gracious. Thank you for creating us and sustaining us day by day. Thank you that you made us in your image to exist in community with other people. We thank you for our city. Thank you for our elected officials, the businesses, the churches, the families, and the individuals that make this city a great place to live. Thank you that Jesus rose from the dead and now reigns as King over heaven and earth. Grant our city that would be known as a righteous city, a city that confesses Jesus as Lord, a city of peace and hope, a city with happy homes, a city that welcomes the stranger, a city that cares for the needy, a city that defends the innocent from evildoers. I pray for this council meeting tonight. Give the council members wisdom and guidance as they deliberate over the items before them. May every decision be righteous in your sight, for our benefit and for your glory. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Sabers.
Here.
Goldhammer.
Here.
Dosher.
Here.
McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Bathke.
Here.
Charts.
Here.
Smith.
Okay, we have a quorum. We're going to start with the approval of the consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Would anyone like to remove anything?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss anything on the consent agenda? Okay. Roll call.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Bathke.
Aye.
Charts.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Goldhammer.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Would anyone like to address this, mayor and council?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Luzak. I am with Mitchell Mainstream Beyond, and I just wanted to give some highlights from what we've been doing this year so far and where we're going. We did the Battle Burger Showdown in January, where we sold just shy of 2,500 burgers, which if we average the math how downtown Sioux Falls does it, that was just about a $50,000 economic impact that we did in January. And then this month we've kicked out the Wingapalooza. Yes, it is restructured, but it is to benefit our town. We have 9 local businesses doing wings in-house. So it's going to be running just like the Burger Showdown. You go to those restaurants, you order those wings, you vote on the Everything Mitchell app, which is free, and you just rate those flavors 1 through 5. There is a regular home sauce, and then there's a hot sauce for those who really like to have that sweating the heat. I know that MTC last year really packed the house. It's okay, we'll see you guys again next year. But we are excited to see who comes out King of the Wings this year. And then upcoming, we've done a lot of other great things, but I just want to highlight those. We have the St. Patty's Weekend Extravaganza on March 15th. There is going to be the Burr chili cook-off. We have quite a couple contenders already. And then we're going to have the Shamrock Shootout happening inside the Masonic Hall. That's a beer pong tournament. So if you want to shoot those balls, let us know. We are still opening teams. And then I'm very excited to announce the Downtown Pub Crawl. Yes, they have to drink in the bars. There are a lucky 7 pours. We got everyone to work together. And if you want to just, Mike, if you want to just pass that around, you can look at it. How it works, it's a fundraiser to help pay for the bands at First Fridays this coming year. We do have all the bands locked in for First Friday, so that is also exciting news. I am happy to answer any questions. We do have all of our events locked in for the year, so I'll be coming in the next couple of weeks to present our plan and all that great things. So yeah, thank you.
Do you want to tell them how much the glass costs?
Yeah, absolutely. So that glass is going to be $40 at the door at the Masonic Hall. With that $40, you get the souvenir cup and 7 free pours of beer, at 1 pour per location down Main Street. And that pour is sponsored by Miller Lite, so it doesn't need to be a Porter Distributing product, which is still a very wide variety. So we are expecting to see a lot of green beers, but they do need to drink in the established businesses. We are not drinking on the streets. No open containers. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations on a great burger battle, because that is a pretty remarkable economic impact for year one. So we're looking forward to year two. That's great.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. So my name is Patrick Sokup. I'm with Exchange Club, current president. I did bring my one of my board members with us today, Terry Asmussen. Now, the reason why we're here today, we're representing all the service clubs unofficially. What we want to do, we're coming together to serve our community. We would like to bring back curb painting as a service to the community. Now, number one, I mean, we would do this, we were hoping that it would be free of charge, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but there is some history of some not positive things with curb painting, and I just want to make sure that we would have the consent of the city council as we move down this road, and we're going to probably, of course, fair weather, May, June, July type of time frame. But I just wanted to discuss that, or just bring that to your attention and have some input, is what I'm going to want. Now, like I said, I'll let Terry talk a little bit about the funding.
Right, it's kind of cool, first of all, that we have service clubs in Mitchell, because a lot of the towns don't anymore. And to have at least 5 of them that are looking at doing this together, I think is great, combining their manpower a little bit. The concept is, rather than the way painting has been done in the past, where they go to your house and ask you for $20 or whatever the amount is, that this would be free. It would be a service being done by the service clubs. They're looking for some funding at a few different places, but we didn't want to push that too hard until we made sure that we weren't violating some ordinance or something. And so we kind of wanted your blessing to, yeah, this sounds good, go ahead with it. Will we get to every home? Probably not, but the idea would be to start, in the downtown area and work your way out. Different clubs would be assigned different areas, and we would have an address, email address, that community members could send in and say, I don't want my house done. So if McCardle doesn't want anybody to know that he lives at 708 East 12th, then we won't do that one. Questions?
I like the idea. What's the legal on this?
So I think that's something that's probably going to need to be coordinated with the Public Works Department. If it's something that the city itself was doing, there wouldn't be any issue with it. If we're allowing a private entity to go out and do that, we'll just need to coordinate with them, as long as that's what the city wants to be done.
And I'm guessing you're talking about 911 addresses?
Right.
No other, like, yellow curb painting or stuff like that? No, I know that's been done in the past by volunteers. That's not an issue. If council wants to give them approval, we'll just work with Public Works to line that up, and just let public safety and the others know that they're out and about and what they're doing.
And that was kind of our intention, was to support city services, to know this is the house we need to be at, not this house. So that was kind of the consensus with the other service groups, so that'd be awesome.
Yep.
And just to be clear, it's not an agenda item tonight, so council can feel free to give their input to the mayor, and mayor can direct staff as to how we want to proceed on this, and then you guys can coordinate with the city staff on how to move forward with it.
No, that's good. That sounds good with me.
I like
Great
the-
project. Thank you for thinking of doing that. That's great.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council? All right, we'll move on to mayor and city council discussion items. Does anyone have anything?
I'd like to give a shout out to the Mitchell Chamber and Development and Mike Lawrenson for being nominated the Community of the Year this year by the South Dakota Governors Conference Economic Development Group this past week. I think it was this last week that happened, and that's a big honor for the city of Mitchell. So I'd like to congratulate him. Here he comes.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for that. We have a video, and we're going to do some design with our logo and everything to promote Community of the Year. We'll unveil that probably at the next council meeting if you guys would like.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
so great.
Thank you.
Anything else before I go? Yeah. Okay, at this time, I would like to bring up Lakin Eldine.
Mayor, we have a video as well.
Okay, do you want to play the video first? Okay. Gonna have to get an award for the cutest video in city council, too. So if you're here, do you want to come up to the front? If the parents would like to come up too, you guys can come up too. Okay. Come on up. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to shake hands, and then everyone's going to clap, and we're going to take a picture, okay? All right. So whereas the spirit of community service and generosity is demonstrated in the actions of young individuals who seek to make a difference, and whereas Lakin identified the need to replace the Sparky statue with a Mitchell Public Safety Building that had been removed due to damage in the previous years, and whereas through hard work and community engagement, Lakin successfully rallied support from the community to bring this vision to life, and whereas her efforts were so successful, the department was able to purchase a second statue honoring the late police dog, Tommy, who recently passed away. And whereas both statues have now been installed in front of the Mitchell Public Safety Building and will stand a lasting tribute to the bravery of our first responders and their canine companions. And whereas I, Mayor Jordan Hansen, and the City of Mitchell and all the council members would like to recognize you and thank you for your efforts. So therefore, it be resolved that I, Jordan Hansen, Mayor of the City of Mitchell, declare today, March 3rd, 2025, the Lakin Eldine Day at the City of Mitchell. Here, hold this up. Okay, do you want to say anything? If you do, there you go.
Lakin, can I ask you a question? I mean, this is a really big deal. Like, you made such an impact. And remind us all how old you were when you started this project.
9.
9 years old. So, do you have any future plans for public service? Like, do you think you're going to want to someday, like, maybe be the mayor, replace Mayor Hansen, or be on the city council? We could use more women in government, honey.
I don't know.
Okay, well, do you have a next project that you're thinking of?
Not really.
Okay, well, if you come up with something, we'll be so eager to watch what you have in mind. And you are just such a remarkable young lady. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thanks again. What a wonderful way to start a meeting. So with that, before we end, I do want to remind everyone that's in the county, Davis and Hanson County, there is the EMS district vote coming up April 1st. So if you're watching this at home and you don't know anything about it or haven't heard, reach out to me or Dan Polarize, the fire chief. Anything else before we move on? We should do one of those every time we start. Okay, Board of Adjustment. Entertain a motion for the City Council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved. Second.
Wow. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, hearing and action on the application for Todd and K. Long variance permit. Todd and K. Long have applied for a variance permit for the following as shown on the agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay,
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission, recommended approval, 740.
I need a second while Joe's getting his microphone.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Mr. Schrader.
All right, yeah, like I was saying, Planning Commission approved.
It's pretty quiet. We're having some technical difficulties with our sound system, which we will be upgrading this year. Might have to just slide one of those over. Oh, there it is. Just talk loud.
All right. Okay, so this is located Shelter Belt west of 40692 Chase Court on the west side of town, property zoned UD Urban Development. At Planning Commission, there were 7-4-0 against. Motion to approve, or council to move forward with this. Notice was sent out to the neighbors, published in the paper. There were 3 responses in favor. The area did have a master plan, but the Shelter Belt was left out of that master plan. Even if it could not be platted correctly, because it's less than 100 feet required for urban development. The abutting neighbors will be purchasing the property, and access is through the abutting properties, as noted in the owner certificate. And with that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hearing and action on the application for Todd and Nancy Boyd variance permit. Todd and Nancy Boyd have applied for a variance permit for the rear yard setback roadside of 17 feet and 10 inches versus 30 feet. This is located at 155 South Harmon Drive, legally described as shown on the agenda. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. Planning Commission approved this 7-4-0 against. Notice was sent to neighbors, it was published in the official newspaper, and a sign was posted. There was one response in favor. Site plan, that shows the old house outlined and the proposed new house outline, which is behind where the existing house was located. The previous house would have been considered non-conforming, but since it was torn down, the new structure would have to meet current setbacks. The applicant purchased the property to the west to avoid any side yard setback issues. There is floodplain in the front yard, which is on the lakeside, which is why one of the reasons they're requesting the variance, which pushes the house further to the east. Mr. Jenigas did have a conversation with a neighbor about parking concerns because that is a narrower right-of-way. However, after seeing the layout of the home with the garage on the north side of the property, which is on the left side of the picture on the screen, their concerns were lessened just because there is room to park in the driveway along with the garage. So with that, we do recommend approval. I can
Move to
answer any
approve.
questions you have.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCutcheon, second by Mr. Barrington.
Yep.
Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Reconvene in City Council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer. Second by Mr. Barrington. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hearing and action on the application of the transfer RL 5756 retail on sale liquor license from Flats on Havens LLC, doing business as Flats on Havens, 1525 West Havens Avenue, to, I don't know how to pronounce it, Gojak Inc., doing business as Amor Italian Ristorante and Bar, 1525 West Havens Avenue. Video lottery is included. I don't think the PD had any concerns on this, as we talked about earlier.
Oh, it's exciting to see another restaurant coming to town. I'll move approval.
Motion by Mrs. Turks. Second by Mr. Bathke. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hearing and action on the application for package liquor license PL 4686. Ms. Bathke.
The city accepted sealed bids for the packaged liquor license that was not renewed at the end of the year. And we received 3 bids. The highest bidder was Rodney LLC, doing business as the Thunderbird Lodge, for $51,000. So we ask that you award the packaged liquor license to the Thunderbird Lodge.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion?
Yeah. Can you tell me what a packaged liquor license is as opposed to another kind?
A packaged liquor license is liquor. Actually, with packaged liquor, you can sell any type of alcohol, but you have to drink it off premise. You have to take it and leave. You can't open it there. Correct,
So when you
Justin?
so when you say off premise, they can't take it back to their motel room?
It's just outside of the licensed sales area.
Okay, okay.
Plus, there's no video lottery attached to it either.
Correct.
There's no video lottery with a package license.
Okay, further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Presentation on LifeQuest proposal for a mini home village.
I would introduce you, but can't really hear me, so I'll just let you talk.
That's quite all right, thank you.
Good evening, Brian Loken from LifeQuest. I just want to thank you for the time to share about a vision that we have that we want to start and complete yet this calendar year. Of course, LifeQuest, as you know, we help adults with developmental disabilities in a variety of ways. We've done that in Mitchell since 1959. We have about 160 adults we currently serve. We employ about 200 staff to do that. We do a number of different things for the folks from vocational services to help them with life enrichment activities like volunteering, but also provide staffing at numerous home sites around town. While we're happy with the dozen or so housing options we currently provide to the adults with developmental disabilities, we'd certainly like to expand our options even more, and in this case in a very unique way. And so what we would like to do is build a 6-unit micro-home village on a piece of undeveloped property that we own, as you can see up on the screen. That's just on the north side of 8th Avenue over by North Gamble Street. And we've signed a contract with an architect. We've received a lot of help from the city. We'll be meeting with them again this week. We brought a number of people on board, and they've been very positive on the project, and we wish to move forward quickly. We believe that this project will be unique to Mitchell, but it'll also be unique, we think, to the state of South Dakota specifically for helping people with developmental disabilities. And we've got a long track record of providing innovative programs for those folks. This won't be the last time we'll be in front of you. We've got some land things coming down the pike that will go through the proper channels, but we'll also have Eric Ambrosen from District 3 down in Yankton coming in at your next council meeting on the 17th to formally ask you to approve LifeQuest's request and application for community development block grant dollars. And so he'll give you more information on the 17th. But to talk a little bit more specifically about the houses and the vision and the specifics about the buildings itself would be our executive director.
Hi, thanks for having us. I tried to get Brian to do all of this, and he said no. So I'm Pam Hanna, I'm the executive director over at LifeQuest. So he kind of led into what we're trying to do, and I want to say that the concept of this really came from people that we support and their family members, just to kind of have a new option for people, for places for people to live. Brian kind of alluded to LifeQuest kind of being well, we're kind of a leader in some ways of trying to find new and unique services to people. So this is just something we want to do to help meet people's needs. This is a housing option we believe that is really unique for South Dakota and for people that we support. It's going to provide an option for people to actually do something that they've never done before, and that's to have a home of their own. A place for the very first time where they're going to have their own refrigerator, their own stove, their own bathroom, their own couch, and yep, even their own remote control. If you can imagine that, people who have never had their own remote control. And this is a home where for the first time they'll have their own front door, and everybody who passes through it will be a visitor to them. Each home will be about 650 to 750 square feet. It'll have its own bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living room, and an area outside where they can have a visitor. We hope to put 4 to 6 smaller homes, we don't know what they'll look like, but it might look something like that on this area. We also hope to have a structure where we'll have a small office and a garage. We'll have a vehicle or so, but not all structures will have a garage because people rely on us to drive them to shopping or to the Palace over here to a game or wherever we're going to go. So we'll have that, and it'll have an office in it and maybe a little community area. We plan to have physical presence of staff on site during waking hours. But in the night, we're going to rely on remote technology. And this is in response a little bit to overnight staffing needs. We're having some difficulty getting people to work overnights. And other places may also share in that. Remote technology is in a lot of places right now. It's in nursing home, other community support providers in the state of South Dakota. And it might even be in somebody of your loved one's home if they're elderly. It helps people to stay in their homes more independently. So how does that work? Well, really, remote technology can do anything from making sure people's doors are locked, their stoves are off, or it may sense if somebody falls or has a seizure. And there's on-site people that are looking in through cameras. Now, you don't have to have a camera in your bathroom or in your bedroom, but they may notice if a sound, or if you go into the bathroom and you don't come out. And they'll let us know, and we'll go in and we'll try to figure out what's going on. So that's kind of how we hope to staff this area. This project is highly supported by the state of South Dakota, our governing body, which is called the Division of Developmental Disabilities. They believe, as Brian alluded to, This will be kind of the first in the state of South Dakota to do this. And they're appreciative of the way it will be for people with developmental disabilities. It's hard to find many people with developmental disabilities that say, I live in my own home. So this would be great if Mitchell could pave the path for more people with developmental disabilities to do that. On another note, I just want to say this. I go to meetings with my counterparts of directors across the state of South Dakota, and I brag all the time about the good-hearted people in Mitchell and our connections and our partnerships and how you guys embrace us and you walk with us in many areas of life, and we're blessed to live here. So thanks for all you do for LifeQuest. And that's all I have, unless you have questions. Unless, Brian, you had more? Do you have questions?
I think this is an awesome project. I'll move to approve it.
I think it's just a presentation.
Oh, it's just a presentation? Okay, then I'll
So
approve
it sounds like you have support.
I'll approve it next time.
Remind me how many total, you didn't, you called them micro houses, not
Yes.
tiny houses? So micro houses, how many total do you foresee
We
building?
hope to get 4 to 6 on that area. We are working right now with an architect to put a design out there. All right, thanks for
We love
having
it.
us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, action to approve Agreement A 2025-09, 13th and Wisconsin Storm Drainage Improvements with McLaury Engineering Project 2025-08. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. You've seen this once before earlier this year, but McLaury Engineering was requested to provide a proposal for design and bid phase services for a project at 13th and Wisconsin to address localized flooding that is experienced during rain events. The proposal includes topographic survey, utility design, and full street reconstruction design on 13th Avenue from Wisconsin to Minnesota. Partial street construction would be completed west of Minnesota on 13th Avenue, which is adjacent to Cadwell Baseball Field. This project was identified in the Northwest Drainage Study completed by McLaury Engineering. The project will likely be funded through general fund and enterprise funds. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed agreement with McLaury Engineering to perform design and bid phase services at an hourly rate not to exceed fee of $79,000. And with that, we are requesting those dollars to be approved through the supplemental appropriation process. And with that, I can answer any questions you may have.
This is what we mentioned a few weeks or a month ago, and I got a little too excited and put it on a little too early. You guys may remember that, and we delayed it, and we are delaying it until tonight to solve drainage of that area, or at least design a solution.
Correct.
Joe, it says that we're going to redirect the water to the west to, I don't remember the exact amount, I'll pull up here, on the basin. Where to the west are you taking it?
So there are it's that open park space that's adjacent to the highway on the bypass.
Oh.
So we'd take it to that location, create a detention pond, which would release that water at a slow rate that'd be acceptable for Chuck's development area to accept that.
10-4.
I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Charles, second by Mr. Severs. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A 2025-19, Developers Agreement for Ridgeview on Foster Phase 1 with Mitchell Area Housing Incorporated, Mahi. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. Mitchell Area Housing, Inc., or MAHI, at Tax Incremental District 36 approved at the July 1st, 2024 council meeting, which approved improvements to the South Lake Estates and the Ridgeview on Foster projects. Plans and specifications were submitted and approved by DANR and have also been approved by the Public Works Department. Plans and specifications are on file in the Public Works office at City Hall. This is similar to our other developers agreements, whereas this basically spells out us taking over the street improvements and all of the utility work. It needs to be done with the plans and specifications There is full site observation to make sure that that is done per that, and we do have city staff that checks in periodically. One item that is a little different in this developer's agreement is that it also identifies the city paid for a improvement to the lift station to be converted from a submersible lift station to a dry well, wet well, which helps us with maintenance of the lift station and those types of items, and it's safer for our crews to work in. If the developer's certified costs are covered by the tax increment District 36, the city will be reimbursed for those proceeds from the developer. Staff does recommend approval, and I can answer any questions you may have.
I have a question, Joe. The dollar amount is just short of 200,000. So they received the bid and they passed it on to us? Because I don't remember us putting a bid out for it.
We're basically paying the difference in the upgraded cost to have the type of lift station that we require for future maintenance.
Okay, and it's
Yes,
all,
it was bid.
okay,
Yep.
Okay.
It was through the grant requirements.
Okay.
They were required to bid it just the same as a city bid.
okay. I do have a question. I don't know if Mike will be able to answer it. But my neighbors would like an update on timeline, and they'd like to know the timing on Nagel Lane going to Foster Street. Will it happen in phase one?
I would have invited Jeff McCormick, my engineer, here to answer some of that question, but we are ahead of schedule and behind schedule, if that makes sense. We got a lot of work done. The construction season was good for us. However, our lift station, which is built right here in Mitchell with Dakota Pump, some of the parts, is behind schedule, so that's slowing us down. But I'm afraid I can't answer that question right now, but I'll get back to you probably tomorrow. I can check with Jeff McCormick and where that actually lands.
I can't answer that question. I do believe it is being installed all the way to Foster right away as phase one.
Thank you.
It's my understanding that it is to be built out 100% this spring, because I do believe all the utilities are in for the entire project.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Agreement A 2025-20 Mitchell Ice Arena Roof Repairs, number 2025-24 with Design Arc Group. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, Design Arc Group. Design Arc Group has been asked to provide options to alleviate roof leaking at the ice arena. The agreement states that they will determine the feasibility to either provide a built-over roof independent structure or a built-up membrane over the existing roof. Cost estimates will be provided as part of the services. The proposed work will be provided at a lump sum fee of $6,500. The fee includes costs for both structural and architectural services. Any future professional services will be brought to council for consideration. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed agreement with Design Arc Group for services described in the agreement at a lump sum fee of $6,500. I can answer any questions you may have.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. Bathke. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2025-12 plot as shown on the agenda. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission approved 7 with 0 against. This plat goes along with the long variance that was previously approved. The plat is outside city limits but within the ETJ, so the city's zoning jurisdiction is in line here. And I do recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer,
Second.
second by Mrs. Sharks. Any further discussion?
So are they gonna take out some of that and build? Is that what they're doing in that area?
No, they are just basically separating the shelter belts out and selling them to the adjoining property.
Okay, anything else? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2025-13, plot of Lot 2 and the replat of Tract A, Wild Oak Golf Club Edition. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission approved, 7 with 0 against. The plat follows the master plan and is zoned R4. It also meets zoning requirements. With that, we recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Sharks,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2025-14, plot of Lot 8 in Tract D, Wild Oak Golf Club Edition. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, same story, different plat. It follows the master plan, it meets the zoning requirements, and I recommend approval.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Sabers, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve Resolution R 2025-15, plot of Lot 2 of D. Odegaard's First Edition. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, again, Planning Commission approved, 7-0. The plat follows master plan, meets zoning, I recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrington. Oh, by Mr. Bethke, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Someone was coughing at the same time.
I'll be abstaining to it.
Oh, you'll be abstaining. Okay, we got one abstention. Any further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Recommendation to proceed with black chairs for the Corn Palace seat project, and we also need a logo. That was one thing that I talked to the chair guy today. So, we thought we could only get the weave in one color. I'm just gonna present information here. We thought we could get the weave in only one color. Those are the different colors we can get. There's a box of colors over there next to those guys. And then the logo we need is right there. I think Stephanie's got some of the logos, which is just the Corn Palace logo, which makes the most sense, but that's for you guys to decide. And Tim's colorblind. We discussed that earlier.
Well, it does make sense to me that since black is a color for the Colonels and Dakota Wesleyan uses black as well, that would be a color that we would use. And I think using the Corn Palace logo is the way to go, but that,
Can you
I
bring
can't
up the
imagine.
Yeah, we'll do these probably one at a time, but can you bring up the logo real quick? Then we can, I mean, there's only really one Corn Palace logo. There's just different colors.
I will say something different totally from what you say, Susan. And that's fine. Your comments are fine. I just did a little research, and everybody knows it's blue at SDSU, it's red at USD. And I just want to make a comment. We always talk about the Corn Palace and the advantage of having it in our town, and people say, well, take it away. What would we have? Not a whole lot. So I say that about the college. They're not going anywhere over chairs. I'm not saying that. But take it away. We should be appreciative to them for being here. And as far as I know, we still don't have a commitment from the Colonels.
We do.
Okay, I'd like to know what their commitment is then.
Joe Childs said on the radio the other day that they're going to play games at the Corn Palace. He didn't say they'd play them all there, but he said they'd play game, didn't he?
He said he definitely won't play them all, but they don't play them all now anyway. He told me that we'd need to bring some sort of
But he
agreement to him.
He said on the radio after the last meeting that they would play games. at
With
Corn
the
Palace.
existing agreement we have with the school now?
He didn't say that on the radio.
I didn't hear the radio. He did say we would need to bring a new contract or to them, which we don't have. I mean, we don't have one with DW either. And we don't have that, so. But we don't have that with DW either. I'm just only giving information here. And that's all the information I have.
I think it was probably a error, not on purpose, but I seen it said that we were only gonna vote on black chairs.
That was probably partially my fault because I thought we could only get it in the woven color. And then when I talked to Brian this morning, so my apologies.
Okay.
And just simply because that's what was on the public bid, was that woven color that we had on the quote.
I think that if you look at black as the neutral color, as somebody who has an appreciation for Dakota Wesleyan and all that they bring for our town, I think that they have black uniforms, they have black in their color schematic. I don't think that black is offensive to the color scheme that they regularly play in, which would be blue and white. I don't think black would be offensive to any of the teams that really play at the Corn Palace, because it's not just Dakota Wesleyan and Mitchell that play home games, but a host of schools that come to the Corn Palace to play as their home court at times. And I think black is just a very neutral color. I certainly appreciate what you're saying. And actually, one of the things that I was going to suggest is that for the logo, I don't know if it would be possible, but I think it'd be really cool if we could alternate between Dakota Wesleyan and MHS as the logo offering on the side of the chairs. I don't know if that would be a possibility, but a black chair with the Dakota Wesleyan and Mitchell High School logos alternating every other row. I don't know how feasible that is, but it seems like
It's like a $7,700 upcharge, which we already have approved of doing. So, yeah, whatever we send them for design, they just print them and put them in there, so not a big deal.
Saying it's alternating the rows or something like that to give.
So we could do DW, MHS, or the Corn Palace logo.
Do all three.
We could even make the chairs the same color green as we have now. I'm just kidding.
And I also agree, I think we all know that everybody up here supports our local sporting teams, from Wesleyan to the Colonels. I just do think also over all the black, I just think in longevity, I think it'll take a little bit more abuse and a little bit more wear and tear, let alone just color stains and stuff like that too. The blue color you have here is a pretty dark blue, as we all can see, but obviously nothing is as dark as black, and I'm looking at longevity more than anything else. So, and once again, I believe everybody up here at council and everybody in our community supports Dakota Wesleyan and supports the Mitchell Colonels, and we'll still stand behind them and make this their facility. I just think black is the way to go.
I think maintenance-wise, black is much better to keep looking better. You get blue and somebody, the kids get markers and they mark on them or whatever. And, I go to all the Mitchell games, the DW games, so I'm not playing favorites one over the other, and I think black's the way to go.
I deal with colors and things like this a little bit in my work, so I would just recommend that if we do the black, which I would like to see us do, I think the pewter gray black might be just a little bit better, just because it might, it's just a little bit softer black, and it might disguise things a little bit better. Well, what was the color of the one that we had? My microphone? Am I rattling?
I'm sorry. It's what it sounded like, one of those Geiger counters. I got one in the basement.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just am recommending the pewter gray black, just 'cause it's a little
I wonder
softer.
if Brian's listening right now.
Not quite as stark, and
I think they're pretty close.
What's the one up there? Is that just black?
He asked me if that was, I'm like, I don't know. I would say that's like a black, yeah.
But the middle one that we approved, is that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a black.
I think if we're gonna pick the colors, I think the chair that we had as a sample is the one we should go with.
Yeah, that's what everybody.
Whatever the sample is.
That's what everybody approved.
I don't disagree with your thought on the softer color, but I would hate to have it come and then it be too soft or something along those lines.
Yeah,
I don't know
at least
what that even means, but There it is.
Yeah. Well, it's expensive, so, okay. So what is the official recommendation? Are we gonna do like a thumbs up, thumbs down thing, or?
I recommend the one that we have in the Corn Palace that we approved.
Are we in agreement?
Could you reach out to them and find out if it would be possible to alternate those logos? Because I think all three would be
I
good.
will. Okay, so yeah, so that's part two. What would we want to do for logos?
If there's not an extra fee, I think all three would be good.
I agree.
Dakota
And then just
West-
alternate them?
And alternate them.
Who's the third one?
Dakota
Corn-
Wesleyan, Corn Palace,
Oh.
Mitchell High School.
Like a broom ball. Okay, so if we chose the Corn Palace, which Corn Palace logo would you like?
Yeah, the far left one for sure.
The full color.
That's those are the colors that were selected as our branded colors.
Our
So-
official, yep. Okay, and MHS. And then how about for the MHS and DW? They have pretty standard logos, right?
I think you would let them provide
Yeah,
whatever
we
their
can find
brand
one from
colors
them,
are.
sure.
Yeah, let them provide.
They'll provide what they want to do.
Okay, is that the official recommendation?
Yep.
Okay, that's the official recommendation. Someone's microphone's going off again. Okay, we're just gonna live with it.
We're getting close to the end.
Okay. Discussion on request of the 2025 supplemental budget from 2024 cash reserves. You want me to read all those, or can I just say as shown on the agenda?
Yeah, we'll just walk through them.
Okay.
It's on the agenda. So I have to apologize about my whispering. I don't have a voice. So I did put the majority of my notes up on the PowerPoint so that I could hopefully answer most of your questions. The reason why I'm bringing the reason why I'm bringing these items to you for discussion is because it's items that were not included in the 2025 budget. Because of that, I think council needs to decide if you want those included and give me direction to do so, because those items would be coming out of cash reserves. We do not have surplus to cover these items that are listed. So again, what I'm looking for tonight is really just general direction from council on what you want me to include. We'll have the first reading at the next meeting for city council. Dan, I'm so sorry. Okay, so, I know, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll talk even louder. Can you hear me better now? I don't know if I can try to squeak, but...
Do you want me to read it for you?
So the first one is the tennis courts. You guys talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. I understand you wanted to see the costs separated between the courts and the lights. So we have that shown for you. This was the request as it was submitted by the department head.
What's wrong with the lights over there? I drive by there a lot and they seem to work fine.
We did have an electrician look at them. They are worn, they're getting dated. We're not certain on the posts yet. The posts, all of our sports complex posts will be checked this summer in terms of whether or not they can be treated and saved, or whether or not they should be replaced. So if we're looking at one, we're thinking
I think
the lights are
the
already that old.
surface is
so-
bad, you can see that, but the lights seem to work just fine if you ask me.
I think the lights work fine at Cadwell, and we're gonna replace them.
That was budgeted.
Actually, what we have budgeted this year is we're doing the inspection on all of our lights. Treat the ones that we can. The ones that we can't will be designed to be replaced. Yep. I know.
Are we supposed to approve all these tonight if they choose?
I will need direction from council as to what I include in the ordinance.
Okay. Do you have the,
As long as you ask for directions, I'm all for discussing every one of these, and I'm on the parks, I'm all for them. But we got a huge project coming up, and we got this money, and it's like it's burning a hole in our pocket, and it wasn't in the budget. I don't understand why we wouldn't, if you want to designate it for capital outlay. I mean, it's a chunk of money, and we ain't done with a huge project coming up the next 2 years.
What's the huge project, the lake?
What's that?
Which huge project? We have a couple.
Yes, that we're into. And it's already pushed. And, you know, the last time we got a quote in the lake was, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. Totally guessing there. And so you know it's gonna go up. And this stuff was not in the budget. And even though I'm in favor of 80% of it, I don't see why it can't wait until the budget and get into next year. And yeah, it does put us a year behind. And, but then it's in our budget, and then we still have the money that's put aside for capital outlay projects. That's just my thoughts.
Dan, I tend to agree with you that if it's important, it should have been in the budget for this year. It's like, I submitted my budget, and now I changed my mind and I want more. You know, we balanced the budget, we did what we were supposed to, and now, after the fact, we're coming back. Second question, in the past, I think the Tennis Association has come to the party with improvements to the tennis courts. I don't know if they're planning to do so again or not. But that's a thought.
Jacob's going to come up here, and I want to say something directly tied to that. For all city-owned facilities, I would like a spreadsheet broke out with what, I'm going to call them student athletes, but there's some adults that play from the swimming pool to the tennis courts to the baseball fields and the hockey arena. What is expected of each of those sports per individual, what they're paying, whether it's a yearly fee, and what are they contributing to the city? Because I do understand John's concern. What's their skin in the game here?
You said swimming pool, hockey, tennis, and then did you say baseball and softball, or should we add those two?
And pickleball.
Pickleball too, yeah, all of them.
Pickleball has raised money.
Yep.
Is there any other things? If I'm making a spreadsheet, we don't do it one time.
raise money too?
Soccer complex.
Yeah,
Soccer.
you should know that.
I'm not a skater. I got great.
Actually, the skateboard too, they did raise money for the skate park.
Go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Jacob. So I guess a couple of different things I wanted to comment on. So as far as it not being included in the budget, we had the concrete experts come and they talked about non-post-tension concrete. And they had talked about how the lifespan of that was 20 years, and I believe it's 28 years that the tennis courts currently are at. Is that correct? So they're 8 years past. It was also brought up in an article that in 2010, the city council had discussed maintaining the courts every 3 to 4 years, and that's kind of just to get them to that 20-year lifespan there, which we're well past, and I don't know that we followed through with that as great as we probably should have, especially past the 20-year mark there. As far as the Mitchell Tennis Association contribution, we are a small association. We also don't have an association if we don't have the tennis courts, so I definitely think that in some way, shape, or form, we would contribute. I definitely have to review that with our board. Is there anything like specifically that you'd, like a dollar amount in mind that you were looking for the association to contribute towards? I also like to point out, we do pay a usage fee every single year, but as far as contributions go, I don't know if the city's reached out to the school, but when the previous projects were contributed to, school is definitely a main contributing partner there as well. Another thing that we actually have for the previous project, everybody that did contribute to those tennis courts, they also went after some grants, so I don't know if the city's looked into any potential grant funding for this type of project.
I don't think they've looked at grants because it just came up after January 1st.
Yep, just an idea.
And Jake, you're pointing out some great points, and that's exactly the reason why this needs to be more of a budgetary item, is the fact that to get the entities all on board, get the Mitchell School District, get your association on board, find out if there's any grants. For us to properly go away with a big number like this, I think those entities all have to be looked at, and the way to do that is to do it through our budget process. I'm totally in support of getting tennis done. I was supportive of it years ago, and I'm still am it. I just think in the budget time process with this dollar amount is where it belongs to do for a 2026 project, and not pushing it through this year. Because I think if we're trying to push it too quick, I want to get the support out there to get the funding in place, and I think by doing that is going through the process the right way and not rushing it through.
And I guess maybe one comment to that. So Mike did have them break it out with the resurfacing versus the lights there. As you can see with kind of the pictures that have been splashing up on the screen there, the tennis courts currently are in really, really poor condition to the point where they are a safety concern. Again, the lifespan of the courts, like when you're supposed to replace them, I'm going to go back to it's 20 years. So we are 8 years past that and pushing it out another year. I'm more so concerned from a safety perspective. Tennis right now is a home for tennis. It's also a home for pickleball. The pickleball courts are coming, but we do have a lot of people that are using the courts as well. So more so my thought of bringing it now versus later.
To that end, though, would it make more sense to wait until the pickleball courts are installed to not remove the facilities I don't know how long the resurfacing would take, but you'd be without courts for a period of time. And so if we waited until the pickleball courts were installed, you would at least have a playable surface of some capacity to do things on. I don't know, so that's where if you pushed it out for another year and allowed us to put it in our budget, it would create a space for you guys to still play and for us to work to that end. I don't know.
I guess kind of a thought that I would have is the way that they're currently structured, you've got your 4 northern courts, and then you have the 3 in the middle and the 5 there. If we were to go forward with all 8 courts at the exact same time, they wouldn't have enough for a tennis season. So I don't know, would it be something where we could, potentially work on 5 of the courts at one time and 3 of the courts at another and maybe stair step it a little bit?
I will say the season will start here, I believe, the 17th.
Of March.
Yeah,
Yep.
the season's going to start. My fear is these kids, they want that home court advantage. They're not going to have it. Because my fear is these coaches are going to show up and they're going to say, we're not going to allow our kids to play on those courts. They're going to leave. That's my biggest fear, is the kids aren't going to get the opportunity to play because of, I want to call it lack of maintenance. And I'm not pinning it on you, Kevin, but going forward, we need a plan, like we're going to resurface these courts every 3 to 5 years, whatever the number is, and we need to make sure that we're staying on track, and it gets put in the budget, as you've said, because this coming back, I agree with that, this coming back later doesn't work, but it doesn't change the fact that courts are in really poor condition. You can see, the frost is coming out. I don't know if they'll line back up. We'll see here. I've been told the frost is actually out in a lot of places, so maybe I need to go back over there. But there's such a deflection in the concrete. There's coaches, they're going to walk on that court and say, we can only play on these 3 or these 4. And back to you, Tim, about the pickleball courts, I get that, but they don't work for tennis, okay? I don't know how much you know about it. The size of them are so much smaller, okay? And it just would not work to be over there practicing tennis, and you don't want to mix the 2 sports right now, and it's fine. They're very accommodating. The tennis allows the pickleball players to play. There's a really good system working now there, and I think that's part of the reason why we're needing to resurface the new courts already, is there was a lot of pickleball playing that went on those courts. And that's okay. They're public use. I'm not saying they're mine to use, and that's okay. And we're hoping that the 6 courts will support them most of the time. We know they're going to be over there playing. That's okay. It's public courts. But if we don't have public courts that we can use safely, pretty soon we're all getting crowded, and then it becomes an issue of getting along, I guess.
And council did add the resurfacing of the newer courts into the budget during the hearing. Would you like that again?
They are resurfacing the new courts this year.
Yep, council added it into the budget.
I would have hoped it would have made I would hope it would have made what I call the preseason, but it's probably not going to make the season. I don't know who maybe Kevin knows already. They've reached out to whoever's doing it.
We have not reached out to a contractor. We've simply bid upon what the per square foot would be to remove and to replace.
Okay, would you like me to go through the rest of these requests? Okay, so the next one was to add lighting throughout the inside of Hitchcock Park along the roadway. It was discussed during budget, but it was cut in order to balance the budget. It was also discussed as part of a council work session. They did get an estimate that brought the cost up to $326,000. and you can see here what's all included as part of that quote.
There again, I think if it's a expenditure of that size, it should have been budgeted. It should have been in the budget for this year. So, I'm happy to entertain that for next year.
The next one is the ice arena roof project. As you all know, we've been dealing with leaking in the roof for 5 years now, 6 years, maybe longer.
Longer.
Longer? Nobody can hear me? Okay. So you approved the design contract tonight. We don't know the cost estimate. We do know that the design should be done this year. But these are a very rough estimate until you get the estimate back from the design architects.
I think we should wait till the design, until we get the, then we know what design arc group tells us, because we're kind of bidding on something that, approving something we don't know what we're approving, really.
And I would look into whether or not the cost of this roof repair falls on a designer from the past, the installer in the past. We're faced with
I think warranty's over.
If it's been going on, Kevin, for all these years, we haven't had a warranty on that work for all these years?
I would guess, even if we had a warranty, all the work that's been done to it would probably void whatever warranty we had, because a different contractor came and worked on that. That's just my guess.
It definitely needs to be fixed,
Well, yeah, we're not debating that.
Yeah, we don't know what it's gonna cost, so to approve this would be crazy.
It's likely some of that would also be impacted by the prior settlement the city had with Pitts in relation to the ice arena. So.
Oh, we did? Oh, okay. Okay.
I was waiting for him to tell you that.
Okay.
This one's a
Well,
little bit.
then it's kind of a moot point until we get a cost estimate on what we approved tonight, earlier.
Okay. The next one is the potential to add another hangar at the airport, depending on how those bids come in. The idea is if you have favorable bids and you could add another hangar, then you would be able to get that paid back within 8 years with the revenue produced from the hangar.
Joe, didn't you in the past say that the hangar or improvements to the airport is sometimes federally funded or grant funded?
Yes, it is. I'm going to pull up what the cost share is on this project currently.
So my question would be, what would one more hangar cost?
The estimate was $100,000 to the city.
Our cost or?
Our cost.
Our cost, for one hangar.
Correct. So the total project cost was around 1.5 million. So basically, we were responsible for roughly 140,000 that we had budgeted.
So about 10%.
The grant was worth 1.4. So basically, that potentially gives us 3 bays. For another 100,000, we could get a 4th bay. Is what that looks like. So basically, this is, I believe we are 10% share of the project. So for 10%, $100,000, you can get an additional hangar.
Right, so the city's cost isn't high in comparison to the total cost of the project, but there isn't enough cash in that fund for them to pay for it. So it would still require us to transfer money from the general fund to the airport to fund it.
Joe, so it's mandatory we do 10%?
Correct.
Okay, because I say you said 1.4 and the bids came in at 1.2.
Mayor, I can let you talk about this one.
Just out of curiosity, is that grant still available in the year?
So what we're doing is we're maximizing our dollars for what we have. So the way this funding works is this is our bill money, and I can't tell you what that acronym stands for. But basically, this is, what I've been told is this is roughly a once-in-a-lifetime situation where we can use our grant dollars towards a revenue-producing item. So that's why we went after this project, is because it allows a revenue-producing hangar for the Mitchell Airport. They said these don't come by often. So this is our opportunity to add 324 hangars at our airport that we likely would not have gotten without these dollars.
And can you talk to us about the revenue that it produces?
I want to say, well, we were going to generate roughly 1,000 to 1,200, or excuse me, 10,000 to 12,000 a year. We think that's a conservative amount. I'm hoping that in the end we can get more.
So it would pay for itself for sure in 10 years.
Yep.
And it's a $1.2 or $1.4 million project that we could get for, I mean, it sounds to me like that's something we may want to invest in.
So to me, out of all of the requests, this one's different because it gives us an opportunity to get the airport more self-sustaining. And it's not very often you're going to get those grant funds to cover that big of percentage of the cost.
I'd agree with that. I'd hate to lose that grant. That's a lot of money.
I agree, you gotta separate these compared to all the other ones that we've been discussing. This is a matching, like you said, grant funds and a big way to benefit what the airport can handle out there. I mean, we'll talk about all these yet, but I'm definitely in favor of taking 100,000 and adding it to, we'll see where everybody else is there in a little bit, but.
And it reduces the future general fund obligation to support the airport.
Right, and this bid opening will be on March 19th, and it would be brought back to council for consideration on April 7th for the bid award.
And I think you have to take into consideration that they're giving us, $1.2 million and we're putting out 100,000 with a return on our investment. So I think that we'd be, what would Mel Olson say, pound wise and penny foolish, or the other way around? Penny wise and pound foolish.
Mayor, could you explain this one?
Yeah, I'll talk about this one. So I would like to plant a lot of trees because I love nature. Now, this is not a big, super important thing, but kind of the thing I thought is it Brookings that does their own nursery? So we don't have a nursery at all, so we pay just a ton of money in trees every year. I don't know what the number, you just got a grant for like 75,000?
The grant is actually, thanks for putting me on the spot, $90-some thousand for 240 trees over the course of 3 years.
Right.
But related to that, I don't know if you wanted to hear this news or not, but this morning I got word from the funding source at the state that the grant is on hold because of the federal freeze on grants. However, shortly after I forwarded that email to the two of you, I got a phone call from the state forester saying they will commit to paying for the trees that we ordered last fall for this coming year. So 80 trees are covered. That being said, we budget about $5,000 a year for trees. That's not a whole lot.
Well, I like to see for every tree, when I owned a tree business, every tree we cut down, we always offered to plant another one, either in that spot or somewhere else, just because I like trees and nature and oxygen and everything else. So one of my thoughts would be at the Kelly property, if we could, the property formerly known as the Kelly property, would be start a nursery, and then if we wanted to pump water out of the creek, we could water the trees. I mean, all you'd have to do is have a guy go out there and pump every couple days or something, and then we'd never have to pay for trees again, and then we'd have a never-ending supply of trees. Again, this is not super in a rush, but we just talked about it and put it on there, so I just love trees.
Kevin, would you mind explaining this one for me? With my voice. The soccer concession.
Certainly. The concession stand window at the soccer complex faces the north. And as any of you who owns a garage, and you think about the garage door gaskets that are in the bottom of those doors, I replaced one last year and it shrunk approximately 6 inches. So the gasket on that north side shrunk. We got moisture and snow blowing in from the north side, getting underneath that, how shall we say, manufactured countertop. And it got moist and it's deteriorated over the years to where it's warped, it's sticking up, it's delaminating. So the idea would be, of course, to change the gasket, make that as watertight as we can, and replace it with a stainless steel countertop, one that's not going to weather if moisture does get in there. That way we can make that room usable for groups that want to use it.
So I've got the full list of what we just talked about on the agenda. Again, what I was hoping to hear from council is I would like direction as to which of any of these you would like me to include in the supplemental appropriation.
I would say definitely the hangar.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm on board with the hangar too. So Kevin, the concession stands out there, I'm not out at the soccer complex all the time, but my granddaughter does play it. How often does it get used? I mean, because I know it got dilapidated pretty bad, and I would take that by being unused
In
portion.
recent years, it was unused because soccer kind of fell by the wayside post-COVID and going into those years, and now it's rebuilding again. My understanding is they've got close to 400 kids in soccer.
Correct.
They didn't use it last year, but they chose to have concessions on site at the west 3 fields with brought-in concessions at different sites that were on the fields. This year, they're requesting that they could use the concession stand, but if it's not available, they'll need to make alternate plans again.
And that's exactly what I wanted to hear for an answer, is that it would get used, because then I have no problem supporting that 15,000 as long as it's used. It's just the fact that over the years, you're exactly right, post-COVID, it was just desolate out there, but if we're gonna get it in operational, the reason why we built that facility years ago, and I can't remember what that concession stand cost back when we did it, I think it was in '06 or whatever, but obviously we have not benefited enough, and if they're gonna get up and running, and I'm in favor of the 15 grand of getting the doors so-called open on it and used, because it's a beautiful facility, and I'd like to see it being used out there, so.
Kevin, would you explain what we approved at the last Parks Board meeting for the portable concession stand?
That was actually a permitting process for people to go out there and do concessions, be it there or be it in any parks in town. We had an individual who had been attending a number of park board meetings, as he has a portable concession cart where he wants to be outside of baseball games or other activities to be able to market and provide for, be they DWU games or other.
And part of his thing he wanted was soccer, correct? I'm just trying to remember what he brought up at the meeting, about he could move his stand to the field if there's one field away.
And within our lease with, our use agreement with the soccer association, they actually couldn't go on the fields. They'd have to remain in the parking lot to the north end in what's called an easement. It's not actually part of the field. It's out toward the Fisher Building.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, he'd go to any sort of events he could, and soccer was one of them. So I'm guessing she's still looking for some direction on everything before we move on.
I'm going to chime in one more time about the tennis courts and kind of back up in a little bit of history of probably why it wasn't in the budget. Is we had this extreme cold, no snow cover. And I don't need to explain to you guys what I used to do for a living. It was extremely hard on that concrete, extremely hard. And that's what prompted me to go out there and look at it and talk to Mr. Sabers about it and stuff, and there's nothing you can do about that except post-tension. And I'm going to circle back to that just to get it under a little bit. You guys always talked about how 30-some years ago we could have put a plug in the bottom of the spillway for $100,000 and we didn't do it. And we see what it cost us, $3 million or whatever. So just keep that in the back of your mind. You're making those decisions that, you know, we're doing this for the future, not for ourselves, you know, and the kids deserve it. And you guys, you guys always talk about what's quality of life and do it for the kids. That's where I'm at with this. I understand it wasn't in the budget, but it was unaware at the time. Nobody pointed it out. As far as I know, nobody ever pointed it out to Kevin until I brought it to him. He's not a tennis player, I don't think, so he probably wasn't out there on the courts. And in the winter, nobody, not always, there's some people that will play out there. They'll put one net up and scoop the snow off and play. Not advised, but they do it. But when nobody's out there using it, you're not going to see it. Now that it's been noticed, it's brought them to the forefront. I'd still like to move forward.
Mike?
It's a very large amount of money. It is. I don't want to speak later that it's not a large money, because it is. And I do want to find out who's putting what skin in the game. I think it's going to be a tough sell to get enough money from them, like the Pickleball Association. They raise private funds to do that, and that's great. But I don't see, I could be dead wrong. I don't see us being able to raise that amount of money to do this. And I want to leave it laying out there. And one more thing. We have a Cadwell Park complex that's very beautiful. We're changing out the infield, and it works. But I voted for it because I think it's a great improvement to the facility. But it works. So the tennis courts, I just really fear like these teams are going to come in and they're going to load up the bus and leave. Or we're going to be there till midnight, literally midnight, playing because we're only going to be able to play on 7 courts probably.
Mike, I was out there 2 years ago and took photos of the courts, and I noticed the cracks at that time, but not what you're seeing now.
Well, from my understanding, obviously, if we earmark this additional funds for capital outlay, not specifically the tennis one, but all the money ain't going nowhere, Mike. And I would just like to see some kind of commitment from the tennis association, from the Mitchell High School on what they're gonna do to help put this all together. And it doesn't mean we can't move forward here in the next month or two or whatever with this project, because it needs to be done. I mean, I'm definitely gonna support that budget for sure, trying to get this thing in, but if it needs to be done before then, I just want to know what these other entities are involved. I know they were there at the porch before. I want them back on it, and right now I haven't heard that from anybody besides, support for it, but in all these entities, we ask people to put money into the game, and we haven't heard that dollar number from nobody. But neither did we ask anybody yet, because this all happened here in the last few weeks. So what I'm saying is that just because we don't want to support it maybe tonight, and I'm not speaking for the rest of the council, but I'm getting the point that it feels like they're asking for a budget, to be a budget item on here. It can come back in like another month from now if we find out what is everybody going to do, what are these entities all going to be involved in, how they're going to support it, and we bring it back to the table.
Stephanie, can you tell me what actuals were for generated revenue versus actuals and expenses for '24?
Yeah, I actually, if we're talking about general fund, hold on. Okay, so we had $3.7 million above budget, and we had a surplus of $5.5 million in expenditure budgets, but that's because a lot of these were projects that didn't get completed in '24 that'll be moved to '25. But there's your final with the revenue. If you want to look at park fund, because really, here's park fund was budgeted revenue was 4.4. They brought in 4.3, so they were short 167. And they had about $1 million left over in unspent expenditure budgets, but again, a lot of that is projects that are going to get moved to 2025.
One large one is the campground shelter.
No, that's not in your park fund.
Sorry.
That's campground fund. But pickleball courts would be one. And Cadwell.
So this is just a curiosity question. Even if we did approve it, could they get resurfaced and refinished before the tennis season even happened?
That's a good point.
I don't know. I'm just wondering.
It would have to be bid.
Highly unlikely.
Okay.
But the girls' seasons, so this is the boys' season coming up. The girls' season be right in the spring, so we're going to have to get plans. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if we knew what the cost was for the design of the pickleball courts. Perhaps you could at least get the design to get the bid documents ready, so you're ready to go with that bid.
That actually was going to be my next point, that I think that would be the logical next step, is rather than trying to fund the whole project at this point, to set aside the funds for design phase to get the project going, because as you said, it's going to take a minute, and start that process now, and then we can go to the table with the players, not only from MHS, but also the tennis players, and to get commitments from both parties to see where we're at for our budget, to then be successful in 2026 when we actually go to hopefully do the project. That's where I would personally be at with this.
And then you won't be delayed like you were with pickleball, waiting until the new year to do the design and then the bid.
So you're doing something similar to the ice arena. We're moving forward with the design. You're asking to do that for the tennis courts.
How much was that, Joe?
Yeah.
Yes, so SPN completed the pickleball. So this price was for design, bidding, and construction phase services, and that is with the amendment we included with the lights, was $62,500. And as we were doing this with where those courts lay out, at this point, you could look at doing the under drain with a direct connection to the storm sewer that's in the street at Foster, which would be a huge improvement. You could bid just the post-tension. So I understand that that's kind of the way they're leaning towards of what they want. And I think that way you would have a really good project for courts that would last quite a ways into the future.
And you might be able to bid in the fall and start, before the next year, or whatever we need to do.
Jill, I hate this when we constantly put out for the bids, the drawings and stuff. Could we not just use the 4 courts we just did, I don't know, in 17 or 18?
Well, if we're going to add post-tension, we would want to make sure
Right.
that that's in the bid.
But, I mean, that's I don't want to say it's the simple part because it's not, but all that other stuff's already done. We just want them to specifically say, this is what post-tension is.
Right, but they'd have to do the storm sewer and the other improvements that he was talking about as well.
Yeah, we would want the section that goes underneath the courts for the drainage, that gets into the drain tile, and that sort of item.
You might be able to get it less using part of that design.
I mean, because we could use the pickleball drainage design. I mean,
I
I
understand
think
what
they're
you're
gonna be
saying.
doing a lot of cutting and pasting, and we're gonna get this $40,000 design bill estimate from them, and it's adding to the cost, and then everybody's gonna be against it, or they're gonna say, like we did with the pickleball, go get more money. It just becomes this kicking the can down the road bingo. And it never gets done. And it's just really frustrating for me that we spend all that money on studies. And I mean, I think back to, was it in the budget? Was it in the budget to pay Shimmer $84,000 a couple weeks ago? No, but we did it. Right? I know this is a lot more than $84,000, but we did it.
So would it make a logical step to approve some design funds? And then, I mean, if we wait till next year for the budgetary thing, then you have to like design it and stuff, then even the tennis courts won't get done next year, I wouldn't think, right?
I think it would be really good to include some money
I'd be in
to
favor
get
of doing the design. I mean, you have to have the design, so,
Then
Get the
then the
design
project
done.
could actually be finished next year.
yeah, that's one step you'd have done before.
I think that's a good compromise, but that's just me.
You could lay out all the scheduling so it fits the seasons and make sure it gets done within the appropriate time.
So how many dollars is a fair number for a design?
Well, I think if we had $65,000 for the other one, I could use that as a top end, and we could see about trying to combine previous plans, see if that's an option.
I don't want to be like picking on Jeff and saying he's overcharging, but there's going to be, what I would guess, there'll be a lot of cutting and pasting being done on it, I guess.
And our contracts are hourly not to exceed.
Okay.
The other side is my office does it, but then that takes out of our regular business that we do on our day-to-day and what we have to do yearly anyway.
And there's more than SPN, there's other people that can do it too.
I do think though.
Could
that
Design
they're-
Arc do this?
They're an architect. Here you
Oh, yeah.
want a civil.
Sorry.
And I do think there is some cost savings to the work that they just did with the pickleball courts. Because let's say a different company did the pickleball courts, I would recommend we use them, just because of the work they just did, and I think there'd be a lot of crossover that we could utilize. Like Mr. Bathke said, with the plans and the specs, there will be a lot of copying and pasting. And since I've been here, we moved from lump sum contracts to hourly not to exceed, and that should assist us with that. Hopefully, we will save some dollars.
So what do you put, 65,000 in there?
That's what I think I'm hearing is the $65,000 for the design of the tennis courts, and then the $100,000 for the airport hangar. Does that sound correct?
That's reasonable.
And I think it's important that we keep in mind that if we're going to be asking the school district, they need time to budget as well, so.
What we could do is if you approve up to that amount, then we could just adjust it with what SPN comes back with what the number is.
That's what
It
I was
should be under.
anticipating, yeah.
I also would like to look at the concession stand. I also think that it might, I don't know, given the use of the facility, and I don't know how, this might be going back to having a conversation with them and how much they would use it, it might be better for the city to think about a mobile concession stand and with the things that they're selling out of that concession stand, and being able to move it to different locations based on the needs of the parks. To put something on, instead of having that affixed to that location for the 15,000, you could probably find a pretty nice mobile concession stand that's not, it's just a trailer that you're pulling around. I don't know what their need is.
I think we would just encourage food trucks at that point. That's my opinion, but I like food trucks.
That concession stand is not one that we run. It is staffed by the soccer volunteers. It's our building, but they staff it in terms of what they do for concessions.
I would jump back to tennis. It's something I just thought of quick is they did a new tennis building out there, and a lot of that was donated. And I don't remember the dollar amount. I don't know exactly how much. Custom Touch donated some, I think. The concrete was all donated. So just keep that in mind that they do, and it was a big improvement to the park. The old shed was kind of hid behind the trees, and with the building of the new courts, it was like you had to walk like a block to get there and a block to get back. And when there's 100 kids, you're yelling at them, they can't hear you. So I just keep that in mind. They did do a nice improvement to the park.
So then let's fix the concession stand and make it work.
Let's get a commitment from them that they're gonna use it though, instead of sit for 5 years and not being used.
To my understanding, they have a spring tournament scheduled, a fall tournament scheduled, and a bajillion micro games for
One
rec
bajillion.
scheduled. That's an estimation on the bajillion.
Yes.
That's what happened
I just know they're much more aggressive this coming season.
Yeah, that's
is
what happened
I'm
last
aware
time.
Yeah, they got a lot of
Slap
coaches
four
out there.
years and-
Okay, so so it sounds like concession, three things, yes.
Okay. Concessions, hangar, and design of the tennis courts. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
One quick thing. So with the design of the tennis courts, are we going to throw in the design of the lighting with it? Well, I mean, that probably would include it. Okay.
Have SPN throw that in for free. She got a punch card.
Can we make sure to include it but keep the project separate? Like, keep the.
Like a bid alternate.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else before we move on?
Can we make sure this says that it's post-tension concrete?
Yeah, we're doing it. Okay, anything else before we move on? Moving on. Authorization to designate $600,000 in entertainment tax reserves towards the plaza expansion project. Ms. Elwin.
Okay. I'm almost done whispering at everybody. So for the cash designations, just some general comments are up on the board. It's really just a process for you to set aside money for an intended purpose, but it can be undesignated at any time for any purpose, even if your plans change.
So this 600,000 set aside towards the plaza expansion, is that 600 of the 1.6 that you said would be needed to do it?
Yeah, but I'll go through it, just the general on designations, and then we'll get into entertainment tax specifically. I just want to make sure I go through this first page for everybody. So in 2014, our unassigned reserves in general fund was less than 11%. At that point, the council set a goal that we want those reserves to be at between 30 to 35%. And then I always give you guys the comparison that counties can't exceed 40%. So this is really as it pertains to general fund, but it's just good information for you to keep in mind. If you designate funds, you can undesignate them at any time for a different purpose in the future. Okay.
One quick question. So the county can't exceed 40%. There's no law for the city, is there?
Not for the cities, no.
Okay, just want to make sure.
We always say that the state frowns on it.
Well, I give the comparison in counties. If we were a county government, you cannot go over 40%. You're prohibited by state law. Cities don't have that same prohibition. Yeah, maybe, at least not yet. So again, entertainment tax. A lot of times we hear people say, why don't we use this for other things? We cannot This is our tax that we get on food, hotels, and beverages and ticket sales. This chart just shows you the budget versus actuals of entertainment tax revenue over the past couple of years. In 2025, we set the budget at $975. As of February, we're up 13.1% from last year's actuals. Right now, the way we've been dividing that annual revenue, $250 goes to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Next year, that'll be higher. What you see after this is how it fits into that state law of what we can do with the entertainment tax funds. We use $420 for the Corn Palace, and then we've been using approximately $300,000 a year towards those community projects or construction costs. That includes the streetscape, the landscaping, and the plaza improvements that we've done so far. This is our estimated current reserve balance. Now, I obviously read in the paper there's council people on both sides of the plaza. So if council isn't going to move forward with the plaza, it would not make sense to designate these funds. However, I haven't brought that proposal of the design back to city council yet because I think we had to be able to show a way that we could afford to do it. So the estimated project cost was $1.2 million. We currently have this much budgeted in 2025. That's the leftover funds in 24 and what was approved in the 25 budget. If you added that to the $600,000 that we would earmark out of reserves, that would give us the opportunity to budget the balance in 2026, which would get you full funding for that plaza project. And then the city council could use that $300,000 a year. I just put Corn Palace project just because you guys have been talking about that, but whatever other community project you have in mind could happen, because we wouldn't have any additional commitments beyond 2027. I also, I think actually Tim might have asked this question, and I thought it was really good. This just shows the amount collected for cities that are similar size and population. And then I took the dollars collected divided by the population. And the reason why I wanted to show this to you is to show you that Mitchell really does collect a lot in that entertainment tax based on that visitor traffic that allows us to do the projects that we've been doing and to fund our operations of the Corn Palace and the other stuff we have going on. So that is all I had for an overview on the entertainment tax discussion.
Can you go back to the highlighted stuff? I just have a silly question. It says athletic facility buildings would.
That's a Corn Palace, yeah.
But could you do the tennis courts with that same amount of money if we're just talking about that? I mean, because you did.
I don't know. I would have to look.
It's roughly the same amount of money. It's just a silly question.
My understanding is the reason why this was added originally was for the Huron Arena.
I know I've asked you before this, probably 3 years ago, Stephanie, and it's on the same line what Jordan's saying, and that's what the people that really weren't supportive of the lake said, well, it's for entertainment. And you said we could not use it on the lake.
You could use it for construction costs.
I guess one of the reasons why I asked for this to be tabled at the last meeting was because to get some of this background information out there as we look forward to future projects. I think that designating these funds to at least the Corn Palace make a lot of sense. I don't necessarily know that I need, with where some of the Corn Palace Plaza phases in my mind came back, I think some of that parts of some of that project are going to be a little bit too expensive, or we'll probably need some kind of partnership to make happen, at least where I am currently sitting with them. However, as Stephanie kind of alluded to, And the people that I've talked to, as we look at the Corn Palace needs, there was going to be at least infrastructure repairs that need to happen in the Corn Palace in the coming years. And so designating funds to set aside towards that end would certainly be something that I would be in favor of.
So just general Corn Palace improvements, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think it would be helpful if that's the way council's going to go to just know whether, I've been on hold with the Plaza project, and if we're not going to do that, I would like to make sure we're saying we're not doing that publicly, so that the people who have reached out wanting to sponsor parts of that project, we can tell them that that project's not moving forward.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of speak to that Plaza expansion project. I think it's important that we don't start thinking that this is just another playground. This is something that is elevated, and it's something that we're doing that will make people stay longer, not just the people that are our visitors, but it's also a community benefit as well. But it's not something where we're just going to throw up some swing sets and whatever, a teeter-totter or whatever. This is something that is, it's going to be symbolic. It's going to be something that's memorable. One of the things that that people do all the time for me is they go to these cities and then they send me pictures of what the cities have in their parks, their gathering spaces. I mean, I've received pictures from literally all over the United States, these great things, and everybody's question is, why can't we do something like this? Why can't we have something that's really special? I think I alluded to this before, and I'm going to say it again. My girlfriends and I went to Okoboji, and we went through an area where they had all of these amazing, unique musical instruments, and here we are, grown women, and we walked through and we played them and we read the things and we watched the kids, and we stayed longer in this area because they had this display and this beautiful park. I'm going to use the word park, but I want to make sure that we're not thinking of it just like it's just something ordinary. This is something elevated. This is something that's going to make the visitors that come to our community say, gosh, this is so great. Let's just stay a little bit longer. Let's let the kids run. Let's let them burn off some energy. They've got, look at this boardwalk. Let's sit on these swings. Let's do these, let them climb on the climbing structures. And I just think that this is an investment in, once again, it's one of those things that I feel like I harp on all the time, but when you consider the amount of money that comes from sales tax revenues that go into our general funds, that every penny that those tourists and the people that come from smaller towns to spend time in our community, I just saw someone that had brought their family from an outlying area and had spent the weekend for their child's birthday. They swam in the swimming pool, they stayed in our hotels, they ate in our restaurants. This is the kind of thing that makes people come and stay, and every dollar they spend is a dollar that none of us have to spend to raise that money. So I want to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, we don't want to spend all this money, so we're not going to do anything. It's just a park. It's not just a park. This is going to be a landing spot, something that is a place where people go, you know what, Mitchell has this really great area that we can let the kids play, and that it can be part of what we advertise, and people are looking through the South Dakota thing and they say, oh gosh, look at this great area that we can go next to the Corn Palace. I see it as being such an asset to our community, and I just don't want to see us give up on that. So that's my 2 cents. I know you're not surprised.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying that I'm against the plaza. And in fact, when we sat in the design room, one of the things that I really appreciated about the design phase was that we focused more, I would say, on how Mitchell residents would use the space rather than tourists. That we talked about how the current plaza, based on the needs of citizens, was we needed shade. That when we had things like First Friday downtown, a very successful event, that if we could have them every Friday, I feel like a lot of people would be very happy. But those are the things that we focus on in the plaza. However, as we discussed things like the water feature that we're going in, as a part of that conversation, we were just very honest and open about how some of those are going to come back as expensive. And so the discussion was that there's going to be city partners that potentially would come to the table. And I just want to be very clear and open and honest with, as the design work comes back, the reason I voted to support the design work going forward is that I want to see what the final costs are. But if it is $1.6 million for what we're getting, I think there are better uses for those dollars. For if it's all city tax dollars, if there's not any partners, but I think there will be.
And Tim, I agree with you. The number, obviously, we all get a little nervous when we hear about the 1.6 for a beautiful green space. We need to continue to do something out there to make it usable for more longevity wise for our local citizens and obviously our tourists. But can we designate this money? Because obviously we all know we can undesignate it just as quick as we designate it. So keep that in mind, everybody. Can we designate the money? Does it, as Tim is saying for Corn Palace, can it be Corn Palace / Corn Palace Plaza? I mean, where it's sort of a
Council
bottleneck?
can designate it for whatever you choose.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that, because I agree with you, we need to get these numbers back. 1.6 compared to 900 or $1 million or something like that is a big number difference. But I just think that we need to designate it that the funding will stay into the Corn Palace and the Plaza. I think it belongs there to better this area. To how much of what dollar amount is to be determined, but I think the designation of it is a good place to do it. And if we want to change around later, we certainly can, but I think the designation would be the right place.
This might not be the time to talk about it, but I won't support the water feature. I think that's gonna be a maintenance nightmare. And I don't remember, I left the sheet at home, I think it was a $450,000 corn cob. I won't support that. What I will support is more green space, because I just returned from Tampa. They had absolutely nothing in their park but turf. And the kids were playing away, hundreds of them. They didn't ask mom where the corn cob was, or the dolphin to ride on. They were running around and the parents were happy because they could sit down, the kids were burning the energy. And I'm gonna go jump back one more thing. I understand what you're saying, Susan, I do. It's not just a park, but I'm not willing to spend that kind of money on it. We can designate it and non-designate it, I don't care about that. But I'm not willing to do something for tourists without doing something for our own kids. We need to take care of our own. That's what drives, I know you're gonna say the sales tax drives in, allows us to do this and that. What drives our community and keeps our costs down is if we grow the community. We're not gonna grow the community by building a corn cob in our park. I don't know how many people are gonna come here and say, man, that's a great corn cob, Mom, can we move here? I don't see that.
Yeah. The reason I asked Stephanie to pull those other numbers around tax dollars for the entertainment taxes, in my mind, the difference in what we collect versus other cities, as we look at that, I think that is a very real number you can associate with the world's only Corn Palace. And so as I start to think about a remodel to the Corn Palace, that's where I started to think about the price tag that I would be comfortable with spending, that designating some of the funds that are generated by the Corn Palace to then fix the Corn Palace, to keep people coming to the Corn Palace, made a lot of sense to me. And so that's what I asked. That's why I was hoping to get these numbers so I could see what it looked like compared to other cities of like size, to see that we're almost double here on Vermillion, but those aren't on the interstate, and I understand that. And so it's not necessarily apples to apples, but it's at least something when you're looking person to person, population to dollar at least.
I'm actually really glad you asked for it. It was good to see.
Are they all the same percentage as we are?
Yeah, it's all
Okay.
one penny.
All right.
It kind of feels good to see us number 2 on the list. I think so. So it's up to you, or you can just choose to leave it alone too. But I have it recommended there for you on the council agenda for you to take action on.
What's the goal of this, just to try to get our reserve balance down? Is that
No, it's just to show an intended use of the funds sitting in the account. So council is making a policy decision that this is what we intend on using those funds for.
I'm a little bit opposed to the phrase, that we would set aside that 600,000 towards the plaza expansion project. Now, if you reword that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I think Tim had a suggestion too. That was just a recommendation. You guys can change that to say however you would like.
And
So
what would you like it to say?
I think I'll move to designate $600,000 to, from the entertainment tax reserves to a future capital improvement to the Corn Palace facilities. Facilities.
Which could be the plaza.
Which could be the
Corn
plaza,
Palace,
what you're saying?
Could be a lot of different things.
Yeah,
It's going to be associated with the Corn Palace.
I'd agree with that.
So- Okay, we got a motion and a second. It's probably not the commitment you're looking for, but it's closer.
No, that's great. It's perfect.
Okay, any further discussion?
I just appreciate council's action because it shows that you have an intended use for those funds.
Correct, and then we want the public to know that we have an intended use of it. And I think they all need to know too that we have full intention of doing something in the plaza to be determined, but we definitely want to do something more to the plaza area to make it a better area for everybody to come, locals and tourists, so.
Yeah. And Mike, to your point, when I found out how much that corn cob was going to cost, I got really mad because I kept bringing up ice rink, and all they told me was how expensive it was, and I really wanted to know what the price difference was because they wouldn't even let me look to see how expensive that would be.
I could build one of those corn cobs for like 10 grand. Probably will. I wouldn't have insurance to cover it, but, okay. We got a motion and a second. Anyone in the audience want to talk about the plaza expansion? The facility designation, I'm sorry. Okay, further discussion from you guys? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Authorization to designate $5.75 million of general fund reserves towards future capital projects.
I gotta tell you, I feel like I'm shouting at everybody. I'm gonna be exhausted tonight. Okay. So now we're gonna talk about the general fund. Here I'm just showing you what the sales tax budget versus actuals have been for the past few years. When I showed this to you, I think it was in November, we didn't have the final number for 2024. And as you can see, as of February, we're up 7.51% from last year's collections. So we're going to have a surplus again this year. We have talked about in the past that, we have that upcoming debt service payment that will start in 2027 for the lake. So the difference between what our budget and what our actuals have been in sales tax should be enough to cover that projected debt service payment. Just like I said before the entertainment tax, our current goal is between 30 to 35%. This is an error, this should say 55%, sorry. The current estimate was 55%. So I was recommending that council designate $5.75 million towards future capital projects. I know Jeff Smith had mentioned at one of our previous meetings, maybe you would even use part of that for the first couple debt service payments at the lake. Either way, by designating the $5.7 million, it would bring that estimated reserve balance down to 35%, which is where our stated policy is. This chart just shows how our reserve balance has changed over the years. COVID is when it started to climb. As you can see, pre-COVID, we were under 8 million. But we did get some federal grant money in those years. And then with inflation, the amount of sales tax we are collecting also went up because the prices went up on things. So you can see right now our estimate after the designation, it would bring us down to 8.6. It's much more in line with where we were previously. And bringing us down to that 35% again. A lot of times I get asked about the current debt obligation. I can bring up the full thing if you guys would like to see. But Michelle did just get through her end of the year debt stuff, so we haven't updated what we have available for our constitutional debt. And as you can see, we've grown from 9.5 million of capacity available for borrowing on future projects. We've grown from 9.5 up to 62 million, and from 65 up to 148 million. The 10% category is anything authorized by a vote. So when the Lake Mitchell project comes on, that one's going to be in the 10% category. These are the two. I'm struggling, you guys. These are the two general fund debt projects that we currently have, and when they're paying off. I did have, now I don't even remember who asked me this before the meeting, but that Near Lake property, we're currently getting 2.9% interest when we bought the Kelly property. That one can be paid off early if we wanted, started in 2025. The community project bonds was 2.5% interest. That one can be paid off early after 2024. And the last one was the indoor pool. There's no intended use for the 5.7, just knowing that council would have a place to go to for those future capital projects. Based on the direction tonight, that's, instead of 35%, you'll probably be higher than that with the things you did not include.
And just for clarification, the current interest we receive on funds in account is above 4, which would be above the debt service?
Yes, it's an average of 4%.
Right.
So would you say our sales tax is up?
Yes.
What is the percentage?
I'm so sorry. But I would never say, look at where we are as February to know where we're going to be for the year.
I just was gonna make a comment on it. You bring 400 construction men to town, your taxes are gonna go up. They're gonna drink and eat a lot.
I hope so.
So I mean, that is a direct result of that. I mean, they're here 7 days a week, a lot of those guys are, and they're eating here, drinking here a lot. So, I mean, that's just another boom from the soybean plant.
I do know too, you know, the city of Mitchell has seen consistent sales tax growth in the last couple of years, and I know that I've been really conservative and maybe a little bit hesitant in increasing that dollar amount, but that's just because in previous years we were seeing decreases or flat, so I didn't want us to have to cut a budget after we've approved it. So, I mean, if you look at, these were our actual changes in sales tax in previous years. I mean, we've had a couple of great years, but we're at or above the average of the other first-class municipalities now, where before we were significantly below for a long time. So we weren't typically seeing these kinds of increases, which is why we've been very conservative in that budget projection.
What would you attribute that to?
I think a lot of it is when we had inflation, your prices of things go up, so your
That's what I was
sales tax
thinking
you're
too.
paying goes up. But also, you know, it's not, I don't think 100% from that. We also had the add of the internet sales tax, which we weren't getting prior to, I think it started in 2020 or 2019, somewhere around that. And when the state used to report that to us, that equated to $800,000 a year that we were not getting previously.
So I think as we all know, we don't have enough money for all of our capital projects that we do have on our list. I think this is a good start to designate, so I would make a motion to designate the $5,750,000 to capital projects.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to designate. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Request for inter-fund loan for golf course maintenance equipment. Mr. Nelson?
Mr. Mayor and Council, at the last council meeting, we discussed financing for the golf equipment. And as we move forward with that, we found that the original funding package that was offered for financing the equipment on a 5-year note included some terms that the city cannot meet. The revised terms that were offered would require an increase in the interest rate to over 7%. Total interest we'd be paying would be roughly $50,000 on a 5-year note. As an alternate, we're seeking interfund loan in the amount of $242,000, and the golf fund would pay back the city any interest lost on those invested dollars.
I think it's really important to note it was actually Jeff McEntee, I think he's the board president for the golf board. He suggested, well, if we're going to be paying interest, we might as well be paying that to the city versus an outside source.
Someone mentioned to me that the golf course took out a loan from the city and hasn't paid it back. Is that accurate?
We have an existing loan on the books for golf carts that was from before I was here. I think it's $75,000, yeah.
How much?
$75,000,
And how much was paid back?
0.
Okay.
No, that was the first golf cart loan. The second one, we never loaned it to them because they had enough money. This was from before 2014.
Is there going to be any sort of contract or something that binds them to this, I guess? I mean,
Well, they already have it budgeted this year, and council approved that lease agreement, so golf course would just include that annual payment in their budget to repay the general fund, just like if they were paying it to the bank.
like the first loan? I'm just checking. I'm just making sure.
Dan, chime in here. What's their plan with the 75,000?
Before or after we get the $200,000 back that the city took from the golf course to balance the general fund. So it kind of, I have no idea why I didn't get paid. I was working out there as a contract laborer when this went down, before Michelle was here. And when we bought golf carts, we always make payments. Let's say it's whatever figure, if it's $150,000, the city would give us the money, and then we'd pay it back $50,000 3 years in a row. And I had no idea that every golf board meeting, and then once I got on city council, I'm at every golf board meeting. Don't know where it went, don't know how it never got. But then, were you on board when they used $200,000 of the golf course money to balance? Were you on the city council? Okay, so $200,000 from the golf course, they took out of because it's legal, they can do it, to balance the general fund. And so, that got to be a heated discussion, and nothing ever happened to the $75,000, nothing ever happened to the $200,000. That's all I know.
Just to clarify, there's never been a transfer from the golf fund into the general fund. They use the golf fund.
I can't understand a word you're saying, so.
There's never been a transfer from the golf course fund and back into the general fund.
It was just used.
Transfer of what?
Of cash. It was that the time they.
Michelle, you got to talk.
Tell me we use the cash reserves to balance the golf fund budget.
Or let's put it off to next meeting.
We've used cash from the general fund to balance the golf course fund, but we've never transferred cash from the golf course fund
All I
back
know
into the
is
general fund.
it was $200,000 out of our budget was used to balance the general fund.
I don't think that's accurate.
Anyway, that's where they're at, and that's how I remember it.
Well, I'm hearing two stories. You said that the golf course fund gave the city 200,000. She says never.
So if I can jump in here, I think what happened was that to get the budget to balance, Bob, I shouldn't say Bob, we approved the use of funds out of the golf course reserves to pay for the golf course project that we as a council had previously not designated a specific funding source for, but had authorized the project. And so in that process, when they brought it to us, that was not, that might have been, overlooked? I don't know if that's the right word, but that is how that was funded. And then that fund is how without taking that money out of the golf course fund, the general wouldn't have been balanced.
So you're saying there was a golf course project that was approved, and rather than use general fund money to pay for the golf course, they used golf course money to pay for the golf course? Okay.
Thanks.
That was a very, okay.
Can I just interject? I see this as something completely different. We have, like, this is basically, I feel like this is kind of us being a flow-through. We're fronting the money, but they're gonna pay us back, including the interest. In my opinion, I don't have a real big problem with this, unless I'm misunderstanding that. Like, we're gonna give them $75,000, they're gonna pay it back, including the interest, over 5 years. So, I don't have a problem with that. I would move approval of that.
In clarification, the amount is actually $242,000. We've budgeted $75,000 this year to repay that first payment going toward that principal. And going forward, that's the intent to go.
Yes. Budgeted $75,000 to pay back.
Last year,
okay.
revenues exceeded $170,000 over what we budgeted in terms of revenue for the golf course. So at this time, I don't see an issue with being able to have that revenue to pay for it going forward, provided things continue as they're going.
I mean, I guess in my opinion, this is something completely unrelated, and this is us just helping the golf course. It's not like we're giving them the money, we're going to give them the money and they're gonna pay it back. So I would move approval of that.
I'll second your request.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would be willing to help them out by adjusting the interest rate a little bit. I don't know.
Councilman
Yes, go ahead.
Baskey. We will charge them interest at the rate we are making on
Gotcha.
our account at the bank. So it will be lower than the 7%.
We're just making up our lost interest.
So it'll be less than that.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you promise to pay it back, Kevin?
And I think if there's a difference there, it sounds like there's some funds that could be paid off.
Just checking. Okay. Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, Jordan, before you go any further, I just got a message that Karen Pooley has sat through this entire meeting waiting to talk to us about something. Apparently, I think you might have missed public commentary. Do you mind if we invite her up? She has
I don't
something-
mind. I was wondering why she was sitting there, and
I know, she has something that she needs to talk to us about, and
I feel really bad because I was like, what?
I know.
Still hold it in.
Well, Aaron sent me a message and told me to be here. So here I am.
It was under consent agenda. Your item was under consent agenda, and so you've already been approved, but yes.
Yeah, well, let her-
Yeah.
'cause
No,
there's
absolutely.
more
I just,
yeah.
it's not like we forgot about her. That's
Yeah.
all I was trying to
Is
say.
this allowed? I just want to make sure we're okay. Okay.
Okay, so on April 16th, we're going to have this in.
Karen, put the microphone close to your mouth so that everyone can hear.
And now you want me to pay $150, and I'm just here to ask you to waive that like you have done in the past.
So I know Karen had asked Aaron about waiving the fee. Aaron's response was the direction we got from council when you set the new rates, we could not waive any future fees for special event permits. So everybody's being treated the same, that we won't waive fees based on the direction we got from city council.
What some of our direction too is obviously to go back to the events authority, people to get some of that money, I mean, because we're funding that group. For us to be fair on the board on not waiving these fees, but knowing, hey, go back to that group and get this $150. You know what I mean? It's sort of a proper cycle that can be documented Because I think, like you said before, why are we saying no to this person, yes to this person, no to this person? It was like just a crapshoot, and I think we're trying to get a little bit more solidified.
Is it-
Every event, this event is just as important as so many other events. I mean, that's the hardest part, is how do we determine which one is worthy of it and which one isn't, when they all are worthy of it, in my mind.
Is this $150 max? Is that what the fee is?
I don't have that in front of me, what the previous fees were, but they were reduced significantly.
Here's what I'll do. This is such a worthy event. I will pay you a fee up to $250 on this deal to get you
Thank
by
you.
this time, and I'll just pay you individually.
And I'll come to you at Thanksgiving
I
time
bet
as
you will.
well.
And then, then after this, it'll,
If they go to the Sports Authority, I guarantee you.
yeah, they can go to the Sports
I'm on
Authority
that
after this.
committee, we'll give it to you.
Or whatever. I don't know if that qualifies under Sports Authority, but anyway, I'll pay up to
It will.
$250 on that fee.
What a sweetheart.
Okay. You can pay Michelle or Stephanie or whoever.
Perfect.
Fees
Thank
just went
you.
up.
That's every rub those.
Sorry we made you wait so long. I didn't know. I should have known.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a great event, and thank you for
Yes,
doing it.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Awesome.
Okay, motion to enter into executive session according to SDCL 1-25-2, 3 legal.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There will be no action after this.
And just for anybody watching, we're going to end our recording here due to some technical problems. So you'll see the recording cut off. Like the mayor said, no action will be taken after executive session.